Hey everybody, I don't know if you noticed a while back I got a hot tub. I've been having some problems with it lately. It was built in 1996, so we're going to have issues with it because it's getting older. There's maintenance issues. Basically, it started leaking out of the pump unit, and there's no way I'm going to have this sent in. This is a soft tub. There's no way I'm going to pay, a lot of money to have this sent in when I can just fix it myself. This is the pump unit right here, fully taken out of the container. This is what the top of the container looks like. It's all foam. That's where it sits in. The power cord comes out, goes into this control box. The control box has a cord that goes to the controls, which are built into the top. Also, this cord right here is for the temperature gauge, which is set right in there. You see that round thing? That's a temperature gauge. So pretty much what happened was this hose had popped off. Now the soft tub isn't like a regular hot tub where it has a heater that's separated. And the heater is the pump. So the pump, the water comes in here. Actually no, water comes in here, it goes through the pump and it gets shot out here. So in, out. This is a suction area. It sucks in. So right here it gets sucked in, and this is where it's getting pushed out, and it goes around into this coil right here. And this is a pretty neat idea how to heat the water using the pump's power, but initially it takes a long time because the pump has to run for quite a while. It takes about 3 days, and this thing's about 15 amps, so you're running pretty much the equivalent of a vacuum cleaner for 3 days straight, which isn't very efficient. So this popped off right here. You can see it has a little clamp. I have to remove this because I can't get it back on with this clamp on here. This thing's going to be toast once I take it off, because this isn't a normal clamp. It's like a perma clamp or whatever. I'm going to replace it with one of these nice little stainless steel hose clamps. Also, it's leaking from the impeller housing. Inside here is an impeller. It spins. It's spun by the motor part. So you see how it's separated there with the shaft. It's leaking from the top here. When it spins, it turns on. It's also leaking from the bottom for quite some time. Doesn't look like it's been leaking for too long, but pretty much it's been leaking. I could definitely tell. There are 4 screws on here. Actually, they're 4 nuts, pretty standard nuts, nut and bolt, and a lock nut on there. So I'm going to pull this apart, and we're going to take a look at the housing. We're going to take this clamp off. We're going to silicone seal the impeller housing with Thermatex black silicone adhesive. This is automotive grade. It handles high pressure and high temperature. I think it's up to, I forget how high. I think it's somewhere around 100 psi, and then up to 250 degrees, which we're not going to even get that high with this pump. We're looking at around 110 degrees, and probably about 10 to 30 psi or so. So we'll take a look after I pull this pump unit off. I already unscrewed one nut. I have 1, 2, and 3 more left. Alright, all the bolts are off. I'm going to take a look at what's inside here. Here's the impeller itself. As it spins, it sucks water in just like a fan would. Well, it puts it through these slots right there. That exit, here's the entrance, is at the center, and the exit is right there. So as it spins, it's spinning at a very fast rate. It's very close to this piece of plastic here that keeps it flowing out the back. And since this thing is spinning so fast, it's sucking at an extremely fast rate, which you get, that's how you get your jets, basically. It looks like there's a tiny hole there too, right there, see that? It looks like it's just kind of like a valve. There's junk stuck in there. I don't know what that is, like a leaf. Looks like that's just kind of like an overflow valve or something. I think just in case it gets too jammed, or there's not enough pressure coming in, there's too much coming out, it'll just go right into the exit. Pretty much You can see there's a hole right there. That's where the input port is, so this is sucking in. There's also a hole. Where is it? That would be the input, and the output is right about, well, you can't quite see that, but it's right in here. And that's about maybe not very big, the size of a small pencil. So that's pretty much how the flow works. And the only reason I took this off is because it needs to get sealed. It does have a rubber seal right here. I can tell it's rubber, but I'm not sure how well that'll seal up. It does have some oil on here around these areas, but there's no oil right there. There's oil, there's no oil. So this hasn't been cracked open for quite a while. I could tell this was opened already because somebody never put a locking nut washer onto one of the bolts. Locking nut washer is one of these, it's like a little star thing. It's like a jagged edged thing. So we'll wipe all that regular sealant off, and then we'll silicone seal it with that Permatex stuff, automotive stuff, to make sure it doesn't leak. We'll take this hose clamp off, put one of those on, and we'll see you in a little bit, and then we'll do some testing. I want to make a note of one thing. You see that gap? This is completely pushed down. That gap is created by pressure and heat over time. What happened was this is completely flush with itself. This has a gap in it, you can see from the white, and that's where the water's leaking out of. Especially on the top also, there's a fairly large gap. Now, there's so much pressure and heat over time that eventually it pushes the plastic out. And this is, pressure treated plastic, it's high quality, but this is what happens. It gets, whenever you have anything with a lot of pressure, this is the stuff that's going to happen. So we're going to have to seal this back up, and that'll be the plan here. It's the inside, the housing for the impeller. I finally got this hose clamp off, which was a mother effer. This thing was extremely hard to get off. It's some kind of proprietary design. Basically, I don't think they ever wanted you to take this off. I'm sure I'm debating replacing these hoses, but I need special hoses, high pressure, high temperature, corrosion resistant hoses, because there is the use of corrosives that are, of course, to keep the water clear of bacteria. But that's another video, possibly in the future. We'll see about that. Pretty much I'll seal it up and put the clamp on. We'll test it, see how it goes. What I didn't notice is that there's an O-ring in here, so I was going to completely fill this gap with sealant. This is I don't know what this is, some kind of plate or something, but here's the impeller that spins. This stays still, so I just put sealant around the edge, not onto the O-ring seal, because I don't want to wreck that. That's supposed to seal it, but obviously it's probably shrunk, gotten old. So we'll put this on. The silicone is done. I screwed it all in. You're going to have a little amount of silicone hanging out there. That's fine. You can wipe that off if you want. I'm actually going to leave that on in case I ever have to pull all this apart again. It goes around the whole bead of the edge. So that'll seal that gap so it won't leak out anymore. Next, we have to reconnect this to this pipe, the little heat pipe that goes around the motor. Okay, hose clamp is on there. You can see where the old one was because it's a lot lighter. It's all sealed up. Just have to let it dry. We'll give her a good test and see how it works. It should work good. I'm afraid I might have over-tightened that a tad bit, but worst comes to worst, it'll leak and we'll just have to replace the hose. So there you go, fixing the pump on a Softub hot tub.